welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something maybe a little unusual. Heptadecaphobia.
That's the one. The fear of the number 17.
Yeah, and it might sound, a bit quirky to some of us, but in certain places, especially around the Mediterranean, this number actually carries some real weight, real unease.
Absolutely. It's fascinating because what seems like just a personal phobia, actually, it opens up this whole window into history, language, cultural traditions,
Right.
and how they shape our view of something as simple as a number. So our mission today really is to kind of explore where this fear comes from.
Its origins, its cultural meaning.
Exactly. We're looking at historical stuff, language quirks, even, pop culture references to figure out why 17 gets such a bad rap in some parts of the world.
Totally. And have you listening in ever bumped into this? Maybe, I don't know, seen an elevator panel skip 17?
Yeah.
Or know someone who actively avoids it?
It's one of those subtle things you might not notice unless you're looking for it.
Okay, so let's unpack it. Heptadecaphobia. That's a mouthful.
It is, but the name itself gives us a clue. Our sources break it down pretty clearly. It's straight from Greek.
Okay.
You've got dekapta,
Meaning 17.
meaning 17, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and phobos, which means fear. So literally, fear of 17. It's a specific kind of irrational fear aimed right at that number.
And it's more than just like, oh, I don't like that number. The materials we looked at suggest it's seen as genuinely unlucky, right?
Yeah.
Especially in Italy, places with those Greek and Latin roots.
Definitely. It feels very similar, actually, to how many Anglo-Saxon cultures view the number 13.
Yeah, triskaidekaphobia. That same kind of feeling, that sense of dread attached to a number that seems, pretty ordinary otherwise.
Precisely. The fear of 17 works much the same way in those cultures as the fear of 13 does elsewhere. They're both these deep-seated numerical superstitions, and they really do affect what people believe and sometimes what they do.
And you mentioned Italy specifically. There's even a more focused version there. Something about Friday?
Ah, yes. Forget heptadecaphobia. Or, get this, phobia.
Wow. Okay, those are definitely tongue twisters. What do they mean?
They both mean the fear of Friday the 17th. The words basically combine Friday 17 and fear.
Got it.
So while there's this general sort of background hum of unease about 17, it really ramps up when the 17th lands on a Friday in Italy.
Okay, so where did it all start? Why 17? Why not, 23 or something?
Well, the trail seems to lead back to ancient Greece, specifically to Pythagoras and his followers.
Pythagoras, the triangle guy,
Yeah.
the mathematician. He had beef with 17.
Apparently so. His school of thought, they were really into perfect numbers, geometric shapes, that kind of thing.
Right, harmony and order.
Exactly. And for them, 17 was sort of awkward. It sits right between 16, which is a perfect square, 4 times 4,
Okay.
and 18, which they saw as a nice representation of a rectangle, like 3 times 6.
So 17 just didn't fit neatly. It was mathematically clumsy in their view.
Pretty much. It didn't align with their ideas of mathematical perfection or elegance. It shows how even these really abstract philosophical ideas can, over time, plant the seeds for cultural fears.
Huh. The awkward number. Like the odd one out in the number family. But how does an ancient Greek philosophical niggle turn into this widespread fear centuries down the line?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the sources suggest a few different strands weaving together. One link comes from maybe a surprising place. The Bible.
The Bible. How does that connect to fearing 17?
In Genesis, the story of Noah and the Great Flood.
Okay.
It specifically says the flood began on the 17th day of the second month.
Oh, wow. Genesis 7.11, right?
That's the one. So for some interpretations, that date, the 17th, gets tied directly to this massive world-ending catastrophe, divine judgment, basically.
I could see how that association would stick. A global disaster kicking off on the 17th. That's powerful imagery.
It is. Now, whether there's deeper biblical numerology at play with 17, or if it's just the date mentioned, that's still debated, but the association is there.
Okay, so Pythagorean awkwardness, the Great Flood connection. What else fuels this?
There's a really interesting one involving Roman numerals. Quite macabre, actually.
Roman numerals? How so?
Well, 17 in Roman numerals is 7.
Right. XVII.
Now take those letters, X, V, I. What happens if you just shuffle them around a bit?
Shuffle them. VIXI. Vic.
Fix,
Exact.
exactly.
Which in Latin means, I have lived. But it often implies,
My life is over, or simply, I am dead.
whoa, okay, that's creepy. So the number itself, written down, could look like an anagram for death.
Precisely. It's this linguistic twist, a visual pun almost, linking the number directly to mortality. A pretty strong omen if you're looking for one.
No kidding. That adds a whole other layer. So ancient philosophy, biblical disaster, a deadly anagram. It's like 17 just kept collecting bad vibes.
It seems that way, layer upon layer of negative association.
What about more modern stuff? How does it play out in, say, Italian culture today?
Okay, for that we really need to talk about something called la smorfia napoletana.
La Smorfia, say that again?
La smorfia napoletana. Think of it as like a traditional dictionary from Naples, but for dreams.
A dream dictionary.
Yeah, but instead of just interpreting dreams with words, it assigns a number to pretty much any image, word, or concept you might dream about.
And people use these numbers for?
Often for playing the lottery, it's this really ingrained piece of Neapolitan folklore.
That's fascinating. Okay, so where does 17 fit into this dream number system?
Well, this is pretty crucial. In La Smorfia, the number 17 is directly linked to the phrase a disgrazia.
Disgrazia, which means?
Misfortune, bad luck, calamity.
Simple as that. Dream of something connected to 17, and La Smorfia says, basically, uh-oh.
Exactly. So if you're using your dreams to pick lottery numbers and you believe in La Smorfia, you are definitely steering clear of 17.
Makes total sense. And this must directly feed into why Friday the 17th is the big one in Italy, then.
Precisely. It becomes this kind of perfect storm of bad luck. You've got Friday, which for some has negative religious weight, Good Friday, the day of the crucifixion.
Yeah.
And then you combine that solemn day with the number 17, which La Smorfia explicitly labels as misfortune.
Put them together, and you get a day that feels doubly unlucky.
That's the perception. A day many Italians might traditionally avoid for, say, starting a new venture, making big decisions, getting married.
I can imagine. And these Friday the 17th, they're not exactly rare events, are they?
No, not at all. They pop up pretty regularly.
I think I remember seeing somewhere, maybe a hotel in Italy, that just skipped the 17th floor entirely.
That happens. And yeah, the date itself occurs at least once every year, sometimes more.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Our research showed it can happen up to 3 times in a year. Like, 2017 had 3 Friday the 17th. So did 2023.
3 times.
Yeah, and 2022. Looking ahead, 2025 through 2028, they'll each have 2 Friday the 17th.
So it's a fairly common occurrence. It's interesting, though, how different cultures pick their unlucky day. It's not universally Friday the 17th.
Oh, absolutely not. Like you said, in the UK, US, Canada, Anglo-Saxon cultures, it's all about Friday the 13th.
Our familiar spooky day.
Right. But then you go to Spain or Greece or parts of South America, and guess what? It's Tuesday the 13th that gets the bad rap.
Tuesday the 13th.
Yeah. Martes Chase. It really highlights how culturally specific these things are. It's like every culture needs its own designated day to be a bit wary of.
It really is fascinating. So how else does this fear of 17 show up? Does it make its way into, like, movies or books, popular culture?
Oh, definitely. Media often taps into these shared cultural anxieties. We found some fun examples in movie titles.
Like what?
Well, there's an Italian film, The Virtuous Bigamist. Its original Italian title, Era di Venerdì 17.
It was Friday the 17th, plain as day.
Exactly. And then there's that horror spoof, Shriek, if you know what I did last Friday the 13th.
Yeah, I know that one.
The Italian title, Shriek hai impegni per venerdì 17, which translates to, Shriek, do you have plans for Friday the 17th?
Huh. So they swapped out the 13 for their own unlucky 17.
They did. It's a great example of localizing not just language, but superstition, too, adapting it for the home audience's cultural context.
That really shows how deep it runs. Are there other sort of real-world examples, more tangible impacts?
There's one that's quite famous, actually. Alitalia.
The airline, Italy's former national carrier.
That's the one. They apparently made a conscious decision to completely omit row 17 on their planes.
You're kidding. Just skipped it. Went from row 16 straight to row 18.
That's the story. No row 17.
Wow. That's a pretty big concession to superstition for a modern airline. Yeah. It suggests they believed enough passengers would be genuinely uncomfortable or maybe even refuse to sit there.
It really underlines how powerful these beliefs can be, doesn't it? Even in contexts you'd think are purely rational, like seating plans on an airplane.
It really does. It shows how these layers, the philosophy, the religion, the language, the folklore, they all build up.
Starting with Pythagoras, adding the flood, the Vixella anagram, cementing it with La Smorfia, it all culminates in this tangible avoidance.
So just to recap the main threads. We've got the ancient Greeks finding 17 awkward, the Bible linking it to the start of the Great Flood,
right.
The Roman numeral anagram, Vix, suggesting death,
Yeah.
the Neapolitan smorfia directly calling it misfortune,
Grazie, grazie.
and all of that coming together to make Friday the 17th particularly unlucky, especially in Italy.
Exactly. It's this mix of history, religion, language, and just deeply embedded cultural habit.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Has digging into all this shifted how you see the number 17 at all? Or maybe just superstitions generally?
It definitely highlights how something seemingly arbitrary, just a number, just a date, can absorb so much meaning over time.
Yeah.
What started as maybe a philosophical point or one interpretation of a text can become this solid belief that actually influences behavior, real-world behavior.
It's a fascinating thought to end on, really.
Fair enough.
Makes you wonder what other numbers or dates or even just little everyday rituals might carry hidden weight in our own cultures, things we don't even consciously think about.
Yeah, what other subtle superstitions might be shaping things around us? Definitely something to ponder.
Absolutely. So thanks for taking this deep dive with me today.
My pleasure. Fascinating stuff.